Liam Delap is apparently superhuman. Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome on back to Football Therapy with me, your host, Jan. I do hope you're doing well, mate. I really do hope that. Chelsea are on a winning run, feeling pretty good. Of course, we had a big win against Liverpool as well in there. Nice win against Ajax. I know they weren't the most formidable opponent, but no injuries, no additional injuries. Heck, no red card last game out. That's a nice little treat for us, at least not for Chelsea. The opposition got one. And we're going into Sunday's Premier League game against Sunderland in pretty good shape, with some great news about Liam Delap from Enzo Maresca. A few other things also I want to reference that he said. Actually, I want to pull up something he said a while ago about Noni Madueke in comparison to Estevao recently, who of course is kind of like his replacement. I know Maresca said he sees Estevao moving inside in the long term, but for the moment he's playing in Noni's old position. Very illuminating stuff there. And we can preview the game, we can talk about Sunderland, we can build a lineup. Boiler, I've built one, and I can explain my working, my method, my madness to you in today's video. So yes, we're going to react to what the gaffer said, and we are going to look ahead to this game coming this weekend. Tomorrow, in fact. So as always, thank you so much for joining me. I'm really appreciative of your support, your continued support here on Football Therapy. I've been here since, what, 2018 or 19? I certainly did the podcast in 2018. So probably on YouTube for 6+ years now, around that, and I've been so grateful for your continued support. And of course, we are moving in on 200,000 subscribers, so as always, thank you so much for liking, subscribing, hyping up the video by dropping those hype points. It does help us out a lot, and it's really easy, presumably for you guys, to tap a button, so thanks for that. Alright then, we're going to start the video by showing you some quotes, not from the pre-match press conference, that's going to come in just a moment, but of course, everyone's talking about Chelsea's new young Brazilian sensation, Estevao. Maresca said some words in him as well. I want to show you what he said about Estevao and what he said about Noni Madueke, I don't know, like best part of a year ago or something. In reaction to being asked about Estevao, Willian, Maresca said, with young players, most of the time you can be a little bit worried because if they play 1 or 2 games well and they score, they think that they are already top players. The good thing about Estevao is that we do not need to be worried about that. He's very humble, he's very polite, he wants to work hard, he also has a fantastic family, they're very close to him. For me, personally, he's fantastic because he's a special player, but you do not have to be worried. Right, so what Maresca is saying there is, Estevao, he'll have a good game, he'll score goals, but he will stay humble. You know, of course, he's a really well-mannered, God-fearing, polite young man, like, you know, Maresca's alluding to there, but he'll continue to work hard, he'll continue to stay grounded, and humble is the word there. Maresca, he said this a couple of times about the young Brazilian attacker, he's delighted with his attitude, he plays well, he doesn't suddenly think he's Billy Big Bollocks, if you excuse my French. He continues to keep his head down, work hard and do better. And that's great, considering he's the kind of player doing these audacious things on the pitch and trying to score overhead kicks. These are the actions of a man who you'd think, or a boy, who you'd think would have an absolutely huge ego. But that is not the case. Now, clearly this is something that goes on Maresca's head, how he thinks players are operating, how they perceive themselves, how humble they are. So I want to show you something he said about Noni Madueke not too long ago, or maybe the best part of a year ago, but check out this quote. Madueke needs to be consistent in his game. In the moment that he starts to score or assist and is happy, he starts to drop a little bit. The reason he was not playing against Aston Villa is because I don't like the way he trained. Got this from BBC, he goes on to talk about how Noni can improve in the final third, how he stops playing after he scores a goal, how his performance drops essentially. He says never happy if you score 1 or 2, you always have to go for more. Now this is chalk and cheese, Noni Madueke against Estevao. Guys, huge disclaimer and caveat here, this is not a hit piece on Noni Madueke. Noni Madueke is an excellent footballer. I do think he had attitude problems at Chelsea with, you know, like the penalty scuffle, sometimes not wanting to come off, but I never really held that against him too much because he's a young guy with self-belief, and by all accounts, he's a decent dude, he's a good player, and he's a great addition to the Arsenal squad. It made sense for us because we made a huge profit on him, and we of course got players that play ahead of him on the right in Pedro Neto and Estevao Willian. is a hugely positive sale for Chelsea. Who am I as a 36-year-old man to say, oh, this 23-year-old in Madueke isn't behaving like he should be? It's not appropriate for me to do that, but what it is appropriate is to highlight how this is something Enzo Maresca's thinking about. His words are very pointed in how he said that about Noni. He scores a goal, his performance drops. He says with Estevao, he scores a goal, he's very humble and polite and wants to keep going, working hard, and yeah, keeps his feet on the ground. And if you watch Enzo Maresca's press conference and his post-match interviews, he has recurring themes, as all managers do, and this is one I found very interesting, especially as it's speaking about two young players, one younger than the other, playing in the same position. Just yet another reason to be really happy about Estevao at Chelsea. And again, less me trying to dig out Noni, it's just using him as a sort of barometer of how good and, you know, how well-mannered and good work ethic young player Estevao Willian is. So let's hop over now and find out some of the pre-match press conference quotes from Enzo Maresca before the Sunderland game. So here's the big whopper. Enzo Maresca speaking on Liam Delap. We don't have any new injuries, but Liam Delap took part in the session with the team yesterday for the first time, so he won't be available for Sunday, but he might be available for the next one, which is of course Wolves. Now this is huge news. Liam Delap had that injury that apparently he was supposed to be out for maybe until Christmas, a long time, but here we are in October and he's in first team full training with the boys. What an absolute machine. This is hugely positive news for us. I keep saying we do really suffer from not having a centre forward up top, like a proper one. Yes, in certain game states against certain opposition, and when the team settles and develops more attacking chemistry, João Pedro can and will play there and will play well. But for the moment, we need a proper striker, a proper, you know, meat, I was going to say meat into veg. That is not what I wanted to say. I'm going to keep that in though, because it's funny. We need a proper old school striker. Mark Guiu is that, but, you know, let's be fair, Delap is a proven Premier League operator. We all want to see him back in the Chelsea side, because we've sort of forgotten how, you know, how good he can be for us. And I think, you know, he will be really helpful for all the attackers behind him. And someone like João Pedro would benefit greatly. So the fact that he's already in first team training is pretty amazing, and we should all be delighted with that. So on João Pedro, Maresca says the following. So with João, we know he can play as a 9 or a 10. He's very good in both positions, but when he has a 9 next to him, a number 9, a striker, he is playing better. Just like I said, I've been saying it for weeks, but now of course you've heard it from the manager. Heck, I should just manage Chelsea. He does go on also to give some comment on Mark Guiu. This is what he said. We had a chat with Mark Guiu 2 weeks ago. I said I didn't like the way he trained. He changed. He was not training well in all the ways. Damn. Since we chatted, he has been top. Absolutely. He is ready to start in the Premier League. Bang bang! There you go. Clear as crystal. I quite like this from the Chelsea manager. It's just, now he's just like, yeah, look, he was training badly in every single way. We did all wonder, what's going on with Mark Guiu? Is he going to be sent back to Sunderland? Is that the plan? But they had a chat. Guiu apparently went to go and talk to Maresca, so like, what's going on? And they had a really good chat, I imagine, in Spanish, because they're both Spanish speakers. And they cleared the air, and now Mark Guiu's been training really well, and now he's like, yeah, he's top, he's good, he's ready to go Premier League. Spoiler, he's in my Premier League starting lineup for the game tomorrow. So that's really nice to hear. It's pretty straight shooting. I didn't like it. We had a chat, we cleared the air, we fixed it. He's ready. Finally, a nice touch in terms of how the team's got togetherness at the moment. Maresca referencing the Ajax game. I told the players after the Ajax game we were happy about winning and getting the 3 points, but the main thing was Enzo giving the ball to Estevao because it shows how the team is together in this moment. We are together. Lovely stuff. And it was a nice sentimental moment. The captain, of course, it was Argentina giving the penalty to Brazil. Game's gone. Where is that potent rivalry when you're supposed to fight all the time? I'm of course joking. If he was constantly fighting with all the Brazilians, that would be half our team, or certainly 3 of our best players. So it's nice they're harmonious. And it was a great show of leadership and captaincy for Enzo Fernandez on the night. So you love to see it. Vibes are up, right things being said, the right noises being made by the Chelsea manager. But of course, you know what football's like, you know what the media's like, you know what football fandom is like. If we lose to Sunderland, it all goes down the toilet. So let's move on and talk about the Sunderland game a little bit. So this is how Sunderland lined up in their last Premier League game against Wolverhampton Wanderers at home. They won 2-0, benefiting also off a late own goal. It's a 4-2-3-1 formation. They're a good team. You know, Mukiele from the Bundesliga, I remember him on FIFA Pro Clubs. Of course, Granit Xhaka's really, really good signing. The goalkeeper's been great. And so a couple of their forwards have been good. Lafay, of course, was really important for them, and Isildur up top. They have got a very sort of functional team. Out of possession, they will play a 4-4-2 low block. They are a low possession side. Good players, but of course we've seen before that can cause Chelsea issues. Low block and counter. And this is the Premier League, baby. You know, it doesn't matter who you're playing. Of course, they are a promoted side. They are not in the relegation positions. They've had a really good start, you know, benefiting perhaps of some fortuitous, fixtures. They did get beat comfortably by Manchester United, which is, you know, I mean, we got beaten by Manchester United, but it wasn't comfortable for them. And also, they were a man up. God, just stuff like that is... I'm sorry, Rob Sanchez, but it's going to take a long time for me to forgive you for moments like that. But Chelsea will be a different gravy granules for them. This will be a huge test. Of course, we played in midweek, but we did play at home, and you know, we managed to rotate comfortably. And I think, you know, this won't be an issue for us. Touch wood. Oh my God, touch wood. So we should win this. That's how they're going to line up. They're going to be a sort of robust sort of opposition. We're going to have to break that down, and we're going to have to not be vulnerable on the counter-attack and be aware of that. Let's take a look at the lineup I've built to play this weekend. So this is the lineup that will be presented to you as the sort of neutral shape of 4-2-3-1 formation with Rob Sanchez in goal, Marc Cucurella, of course, returning into the side. Now, Chalobah and Achiampong didn't start midweek. I think they will be the two starting centre-backs in this game here. I think Chalobah will start on the left side, as we've seen him do on many occasions. Josh Achiampong, who's played incredibly well, and we've seen him play as the right back, inverting into the midfield, but I think here he will be the right centre-back. Midfield of Caicedo and Fernandes, who got to be taken off in the midweek, and they're of course playing at home. They should be good to go. João Pedro, of course, wasn't available for midweek. He will be starting here, but I think he will start behind Mark Guiu, the striker. Maresca himself just said he's ready for the Premier League, and it's been clear to see for everyone we play better when we've got a conventional centre-forward up there. Now, I do think it will be Garnacho starting on the left, because we saw a lot of Gittins, of course, midweek. I think Garnacho's got that Premier League starting left wing role for the moment. Similarly, a fully rested Pedro Neto, I think, will start on the right-hand side, both, of course, flanking Mark Guiu, the starting centre-forward, who got 45 minutes to keep warm. I think he'll get 60 minutes in this game. Now, I can hear many of you already shouting at me, Jan, you've got to start Estevao. He's one of our best players at the moment. He's our best performing attacker. But he's played so many minutes. He's very young, and even if it's just for a few more weeks, I think he will be utilised as a closer in the Premier League against tired legs. Pedro Neto's fully rested. He's coming off a goal and an assist in his last Premier League game, and of course he's playing very, very well. In fact, he could stay on for the entire 90 minutes here. Estevao could come on for Garnacho, and they could simply move Pedro Neto over to the left wing. You know, Gittins has played 90 minutes, I think it was, so we played a lot of minutes. He doesn't necessarily need to feature. Maybe he'll get a few token minutes at the end. The rotation is key in this, you know, winter period coming up. So that's how I see the starting lineup. We'll of course see substitute appearances from Estevao, probably, Santos, Lavia. Gusto's got a red card, so he's not available, is he? But yeah, we'll see that some rotation there. Probably a centre-back, maybe Hato. The 5 subs, you wouldn't be surprised by any of them. But you can bet your bottom dollar on one of them being Estevao, maybe for half an hour. But yeah, I don't see him starting over a fully rested Pedro Neto, who's coming off a goal and an assist, especially when Estevao is, just played a couple of nights ago for the majority, if not all that game. Forgive me, I can't remember exact amount. So that's my lineup, but it will obviously be different in possession. So this is what I feel like it can look like in possession. So here we go. This is what I feel like it's going to look like in possession. Maresca's box midfield will be created by Reece James going into defensive midfield position with Moises Caicedo, and of course Enzo Fernandez and João Pedro will complete the box midfield as the sort of attacking 8/10s, and then the width will be held by Pedro Neto and Alejandro Garnacho. Of course, we'll see different iterations of this. There could be moments where Marc Cucurella runs forward, creating the width on the left. He interchanges very, very well with Alejandro Garnacho. In small glimpses, we've already seen how they've cultivated a good early budding relationship. Reece James can get forward as well in certain game states, so, there will be the opportunity to change the shape there. But I think in the absence of Santos and Lavia, and again, I'm guessing here, I'd be surprised if Lavia starts, but I wouldn't be surprised if for some reason Santos starts this game. Maybe Maresca goes, they are a promoted side, we do need to get Santos minutes. I think this is a good opportunity to play him to get this sort of performance out of them. It wouldn't surprise you, would it? But that's the kind of players I imagine will start in terms of important players coming in, rested players coming in, and I think that's a very, very strong side to go against promoted Sunderland, who have been very good, and we need to be very wary of them. But I do expect to win. I don't think necessarily it's going to be super easy, but I am going to say 2-0 to Chelsea. I want a clean sheet, and I want one more than one goal. It might be a hairy game, and it might be like a late goal that makes you go, oh, okay, we've got the second. But at the moment, that's what I'm predicting. Look, I'd love for us to absolutely roast him, and again, there's a possibility. Maybe Guiu comes in, causes absolute chaos, and, Joao Pedro scores a couple and back in the team and back in form and back in the goals. Estevao comes off the bench and gets a goal and assist, and Pedro Neto gets a goal involvement, which he's, of course, been good for these last few months. You could see it all happening. Who knows? Maybe a Garnacho scores his first goal for Chelsea. This is all can happen, but of course, it's the Premier League. You can lose as well. But I am going to predict a 2-0 win for the Blues, for Chelsea. So let me know your thoughts. Please do leave them down in the comment section below, and as always, I'll thank you for liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing, and hyping the video, dropping them hype points. Take care of yourselves, friends. I hope to see you again soon. Peace.
You ain't so tough with that bad boy tuck. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought. Body bag the verse, outlined in chalk. In my life seen trouble, hustle on the double. Silence on the trigger like my pick got a muzzle. Yo, chick like to guzzle, bad boy stay in trouble. I only love this paper, sorry I don't. I laugh me, baby.